Hi everyone. Welcome back to Dave's Math Channel. I'm your host David Tare, and today I thought I'd do something different. I'm gonna do a little departure from my first year calculus series. Thought I'd talk about something fun, namely the ELO chess rating system. You guys might have heard of this, I'm not sure, but it's basically how all tournament chess players are rated these days, including both national and international champions, world champions. So anyway, let's begin. So here's an enlarged picture of the graph I showed in the middle of the introductory slide. This just shows you what typical ELO ratings are like for tournament players. This is tournament players, by the way, not just ordinary recreational players. I mean, if you just picked your average Joe on the street who's maybe played a little bit of chess here and there, chances are I think his rating, her rating, will probably be around 1,000, which is about my rating, by the way. And by the way, I used to play in tournaments. I was terrible. I was among the worst tournament player there was in a tournament I used to go to because my rating's around 1,000, maybe 1,100. It can vary. It can vary about 200 points up or down. I had it as high as 1,200, I think, but that's like beginner level. So I'm like beginner tournament level. And I don't think there's really much of a connection between math ability and chess ability. I mean, there's some really amazing chess players that don't really know any math. I don't think, a lot of people seem to think there's a connection between chess and math. And it's true that, playing a good game of chess, a lot of the strategy does involve some calculations. And as a matter of fact, there's computer programs for playing really good chess, but they involve very, very complicated algorithms, and human players don't use those algorithms. I think good human chess players have other parts of their brain that make them good at chess. I don't think it's so much math. Maybe they're used to thinking strategically. Maybe they just like the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, like they used to say on the ABC's Wild World of Sports. Who knows? But I don't think there's that much of a connection. Maybe part of the reason I'm bad at chess too is because well, I heard that to get really good at chess, you have to play against really good chess players as a kid who don't let you win. They have to play as good as they can against you. That's how you learn to play good chess. And my dad used to let me win when I was a kid, and I don't think that helps me at all. And maybe I'm just not aggressive enough either. I don't know. I'm not that good at most games, but chess especially. But anyway, enough of that. So this is just typical ratings for tournament players, and like average tournament rating is usually around 1,500. And I think that's actually what they start all players with. When you first join, like the USCF, United States Chess Federation, they start you with what's called a preliminary rating of 1,500. And then your rating either goes up or down depending on how you play against other players. I should probably get into I'll get into that in a minute. But anyway, I just want to give you a little bit more of an idea of what typical ELO ratings are. So this is like a bell curve. This kind of shows you the percentage of tournament players that have given ratings. So hardly anybody has a rating above 2,000. 2,000 is what's called a strong expert. So if you had usually a typical chess club. I used to belong to the chess club in San Diego, which had about 100 members, and the highest ratings among anybody that went. I guess there were some that were really high. Some were over 2,500, but it's very rare to find players with a rating of over 2,000. 2,000 is pretty damn good. And but then if you're talking about like national champions, I mean, I think to be a U.S. So these are ratings. So you have different classes of players. This is all USCF classes depending on your ELO rating, and 2,400 and above is considered a senior master. I mean, the best chess players in the country have ratings of about 2,400 or higher. And if you're talking about world champions, these are the top 10 chess players in the world right now, international. Two of them are American. And yeah, there are a couple of really good Americans. I guess number two and number three are American. Hiraku Nakamura and Fabiano Caruana. The ratings are 2,802 and 2,796, both around 2,800. The best chess players in the world typically have a rating between 2800 and 2900. And the ELO rating is fairly recent. I mean, I think it started in 1960 with a guy named Arpad ELO. And it's not, some people think it's ELO, like it's an acronym. It's not. It's not like the rock band ELO. It's ELO. That was his last name. He was the one who created this rating system. And I don't think there's ever been a chess player with a rating above 2,900. I think Bobby Fischer was 2,851. I think he was the best. He was. Yeah, I think at the time he was the best chess player in the world. Some people think he still is. Was the best chess player. Is the best chess player of all time. It's hard to know. If you go back before 1960, there were some pretty amazing chess players before they did these ratings. I mean, uh, some of the great ones. I think you probably heard of Morphy. There was an American chess player named Morphy in the mid 19th century. He was an amazing chess player, and the Capablanca. There have been some pretty amazing European chess players throughout history. Boris Spassky, I guess, was Bobby Fischer's opponent. There's been a lot of Kasparov was the first one who was beaten by a computer, Deep Blue. I'll get into that more later. But anyway, these are the top 10 today. And now I haven't told you how you calculate this ELO rating. And it involves some pretty complicated math. But I think you guys can understand how this works. So how does this work? Well, I'll tell you. Like I said, if you first join the USCF, they give you a preliminary rating of 1500, and then there's this constant called K. This is the maximum your score can go up or down after you win or lose a single game. And so you start with a rating of 1500, and then each time you play an opponent, they have a rating too. And your rating either goes up or down, and their rating goes down or up by the same amount. So the total ratings of everybody stays the same. If you like the sum of all the ratings of all chess players in the tournament's conserved, if you want to think of it that way. So your rating, if you win, will go up, but your opponent's rating will go down by the same amount. How do we calculate how much they go up or down? Well, these formulas, EA. EA is equal to the amount, I think that well, it's actually, EA is a fraction. Um, yeah, I can't remember what these formulas are, but anyway, they're quantities you can calculate in this way. Let me just look at these. I haven't looked at this in a while. So RA is your rating. Say you're player A, then your rating is R sub A, and you're playing player B. His rating is R sub B. So if R sub B is greater than R sub A, then this exponential term on the right in the denominator, 10 to the R sub B minus R sub A over 400, that's going to be greater than 1. So that means this whole quantity E sub A is going to be less than a half. So that means if you're outrated, if RB is greater than RA, that means your opponent has a higher rating than you. That means these things, E sub A and E sub B, these are supposed to be probabilities of you winning or losing. So if your rating is the same as your opponent, meaning RA equals RB, then this exponential term is equal to 1 because the exponent's 0. That means that you have a probability of 50% and your opponent does too of winning if your rating the same. But if your opponent has a higher rating than you, then your probability of winning is less than a half and his is greater than a half. It's actually 1 minus yours. And you can check that these two quantities add up to 1. So those are the probabilities that you're going to win or lose. And then your rating either goes up or down according to the formulas on the bottom. So say RA is your curtain rating, and then you play against player B. And say player B outranks you. Then your E sub A is going to be less than a half. And S sub A, I'm not sure what S sub A is. I think it's they say players actually score S sub A, S sub B. That's your score in the game. So your score is either zero, a half, or one. That's kind of how chess works. If you win, your score is one. If you lose, your score is zero. If it's a draw, which often happens in chess, then your score is a half. Your rating can still go up and down even if you draw. Because if you draw against a better opponent, your rating is going to go up. And similarly, if you draw against a worse opponent, your rating is going to go down. So this is the formula for how your rating changes. And let's just look at these formulas a little bit. So S sub A is your score, like I said. Let's say you beat an opponent who's better than you. So then your S sub A is 1, but your E sub A was less than a half. Remember? So S sub A minus E sub A is going to be positive. A matter of fact, it's greater than a half. And then there's this constant K. And K is typically 32. I mean, if you're, this is after you have a preliminary rating. K is actually a lot larger. If you have a preliminary rating, I think your K starts at 500. But it goes down each game you play. So it starts at 500, and then you play something like 25 games. You have a preliminary rating until you play 25 games, and then K becomes 32, I believe. So K keeps going down by, I guess it goes down maybe like 1 over the number of games you play, something like that. So there's another formula that says what K is when you're doing a preliminary rating. But anyway, K is a constant. So I think you can kind of see how this works. Your rating either goes up or down according to whether you win or lose and according to the difference between your score and your opponent's score. And if you have a higher score than your opponent, then this E sub A is going to be bigger than 50%. Your rating will still go up if you win, but it won't go up by as much. If you're equal, so just think of it this way. If your rating is equal to your opponent's, then your score goes up if you win by K over 2. Because S sub A minus E sub A is going to be a half in that case. And if you lose, it'll go down by E over 2 because S sub A minus E sub A is going to be minus a half. That's how it works. So if it's not a preliminary rating anymore, your rating will go up 16 points if you're playing against an opponent with the same rating as you, and you win, and it'll go down by 16 points. Similarly, if you lose. And if you're playing against a better opponent and you win, your score will go up by more than 16 points. Or if you lose, it'll go down by less than 16 points. So I think you see how this works. I think it's a very clever system. And I just want to show you a few graphs here. This is the graph of probability. This is really just this factor. These are just the E sub A and E sub B. These are the graphs of E sub A and E sub B. And so if your difference in rating is if you're pretty close in rating, then it's pretty equally likely that you're going to win or lose. It turns out that if your opponent has a rating of 200 points higher than you, then you have about a 3/4 chance of losing, and about a 1/4 chance of winning. So in that case, if you beat an opponent with an ELO rating of 200 points higher than you, your score is probably going to go up about 24 points. But if you lose to him, your score is going to go down by 8 points. And vice versa. If you play against an opponent with a rating 200 points lower than you, if you win, your score is only going to go up by 8 points. But if you lose, your score is going to go down by 24 points. So that's how your ELO rating gets updated. And it can fluctuate. I mean, it usually fluctuates about 100 or 200 points. So it's only an approximate indication of how good a chess player you are. I mean, even if you were world champion, say you were world champion with ELO rating of 2,800, it could go down as low as 2,700, and it could go up as high as 2,900. Those are kind of fluctuations. So these ELO ratings are really only approximate, but they're good approximations. Keep in mind that there's just a very, very wide spectrum of chess ability. So, I mean, if you're just a recreational chess player, maybe your ELO rating is about 1,000. But, the world champions have an ELO rating of around 2,800, so that's an 1,800 point difference. You wouldn't stand a chance in heaven against a champion. I mean, the world champions. I mean, there's amazing chess players. I mean, there's chess. I think even you don't even have to be a world champion. I think most chess players with a rating of over around 2,000. They don't even need a board. I mean, they're just so comfortable with the game. I think some of them play in their sleep. I mean, there's just amazing chess players. There's chess players who can play 20 games at once. They can go around. They can go in a room of 20 players and play a move against each player. You know, and there's players that don't even need a board. They can just say the moves in their head because they can picture all the pieces in their head. They know where they are. Pretty amazing. I don't know how they do it, but they do. And they also see several moves ahead. That's another key to playing really good chess. You have to be able to see about 5 or 6 moves ahead. I can only see maybe 2 moves ahead. So it's really hard to be a good chess player. Keep in mind also that you have to play a lot. I mean, you have to play thousands of games, and you have to play for years. And it's not just playing games; it's also doing problems, reading books, learning strategies of the experts. I mean, there's people that devote their whole lives to chess, and you know, not me, but anyway. And here's another graph. This shows you how much your score will go up. I mean, these are just probabilities again. This is kind of like the same graph I showed before, except the blue graph is your probability of losing to an opponent, a player whose rating is higher than you, and the red would be the probability of beating him, or vice versa. And you can see that they're symmetric. They both add up to 1 as they're supposed to. And the last graph I want to show you here, I don't know how clearly you can see this. I think this is really interesting. I mean, nowadays, the best computer programs in the world are much better than the best chess players in the world. I mean, it really made the news. I don't know how many of you guys remember Deep Blue. This was back in 1995. I remember this. This was a big news story in 1995. For the first time in history, a computer named Deep Blue, was an IBM computer, beat the world reigning chess champion, who was Garry Kasparov at the time. He was pretty upset about it too. I mean, he played other games where he beat it. I think he beat it 5 games out of 6, but it did beat him once, and that was a really amazing thing. And actually, there were a lot of computer programmers who thought this was going to happen a lot earlier. I mean, computers, I guess, first came out around, electronic computers, I think, in the early 1950s, maybe late 40s. And then shortly afterwards, there were computer programs that were trying to write chess programs. So, people have been working on chess playing computer programs since the 1950s. And as you guys all know, computers have gotten more and more powerful and faster. Not only that, but I think a lot of the algorithms have been improved too. But it still took 40 years for the first chess, between the time when the first chess programs were written and the time when finally the first chess program beat the world reigning champion. A lot of computer programmers thought it was going to be a lot quicker than that. I think there were a lot of computer programmers in the 50s that thought in 10 years they'd be able to beat the best humans in the world. That didn't happen, obviously. It took 40 years. But it's still pretty impressive that they were able to do it. And now, I mean, this was 1995. This is like the middle of this graph. So you'll notice there's a little flat plateau that starts at 1995. I think that goes to around 2005. So there wasn't much improvement for about 10 years. But now, the world's best computer programs have an ELO rating of around 3,600. I think somewhere around 3,500, 3,600. It's about 600 points higher than the world's best chess players. Think about that. That's pretty damn high. You know, I mean, computers are getting very, very smart, and at least in chess. I mean, there's computer programs that can outplay easily any chess player in the world, and we may have even reached the point where computers pass the Turing test. I mean, that's another thing. Obviously, chess is a very specialized skill. Computers may not be intelligent in other things, like art or music, but they're getting there. I mean, ChatGPT, to me, and a lot of these other, intelligent systems today, I think we might have already reached the point where computers have passed the Turing test, meaning that they're intelligent like us. Yeah, of course, whether or not they're conscious is another question. I don't think they're conscious. I think they're intelligent, but I don't think they're conscious. But that could be a whole nother video. But anyway, that concludes my video on the ELO chess rating. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Long live math, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.